In 2008, Jaipur Bookmark is an international B2B event for the publishing industry. It runs parallel with the Z Jaipur Literature Festival. Teamwork also promotes the best in Indian theatre through the Mahindra Excellence in Theatre Awards, the only national platform that celebrates all the aspects of the craft from across India. The Going Solo International Theatre Festival is the first of its kind in India, bringing together award-winning single-actor performances from across the globe. While international touring productions such as Bollywood Extravaganza and Bollywood Love Story, a musical, have sold out shows across Europe, Egypt and Russia. Sounds of Freedom. The name says it all. A musical celebration of freedom of expression through workshops and outreach programs, Sounds of Freedom culminates in a live concert broadcast on television and online. The sacred celebrates the spiritual through music, movement and poetry. Teamwork Arts also produces numerous international festivals. These festivals showcase the best that Indian arts and culture has to offer. Teamwork's major nationwide festival is Delhi Live, a weekend carnival in the nation's capital.
Teamwork Arts and Capital Jazz present the Jazz Utsav. This is the definitive jazz festival featuring the best of talent from India and abroad.
For the young and the young at heart, the Ishara International Puppet Theatre Festival brings local and international performances to audiences across several Indian cities. While the Multi-City Kahani Festival features interactive storytelling sessions and workshops championing the power of imagination. Teamwork Arts, celebrating the arts. For more information, visit www.teamworkarts.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter. The Jaipur Literature Festival is the world's largest free festival of its kind. With daily interactive sessions, lively debate and dialogue, and international music performances every night, it's no wonder the festival attracts nearly 270,000 visitors a year. Since its inception in 2008, JLF has gone international with festivals along the banks of the London Thames and across the pond in Boulder, Colorado. Jaipur Bookmart is an international B2B event for the publishing industry. It runs parallel with the Z Jaipur Literature Festival. Teamwork also promotes the best in Indian theatre through the Mahindra Excellence in Theatre Awards, the only national platform that celebrates all the aspects of the craft from across India. The Going Solo International Theatre Festival is the first of its kind in India, bringing together award-winning single-actor performances from across the globe. While international touring productions such as Bollywood Extravaganza and Bollywood Love Story, a musical, have sold out shows across Europe, Egypt and Russia. Sounds of Freedom, the name says it all. A musical celebration of freedom of expression through workshops and outreach programs, Sounds of Freedom culminates in a live concert broadcast on television and online. The Sacred celebrates the spiritual through music, movement and poetry. Teamwork Arts also produces numerous international festivals. These festivals showcase the best that Indian arts and culture has to offer. Teamwork's major nationwide festival is Delhi Live, a weekend carnival in the nation's capital.
Teamwork Arts and Capital Jazz present the Jazz Utsav. This is the definitive jazz festival featuring the best of talent from India and abroad.
For the young and the young at heart, the The Ishara International Puppet Theatre Festival brings local and international performances to audiences across several Indian cities. While the Multi-City Kahani Festival features interactive storytelling sessions and workshops championing the power of imagination. Teamwork Arts, celebrating the arts. For more information, visit www.teamworkarts.com or follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 9th Zee Jaipur Literature Festival, Charbagh. Before we begin today, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The title partner Zee, in association with Rajnigandha Silver Pearls, powered by Airtel. Our venue partners, Google, Ford, Mahindra Humanities Center, Aga Khan Foundation, Dettol, Amity University, Dove, Rajasthan Tourism, British Council, The Getty, Glenlivet, Amway, Kotak Mahindra, EU Financiers, NH Health, Jan Mikalski, Coca-Cola, YPO, WPO, Kingfisher, Diggy Palace Hotel, Rambagh Palace, Le Méridien, Clark's Amer Hotel, State Bank of Bikaner and Jaipur, Indigo, Uber, Penguin Random House and Nestle. I would also like to thank our media partners, Patrika Group, Red FM, Dainik Bhaskar, DNA and Twitter. Before we start, I would also request you to keep the aisles clean for easier movement. Please do not leave your bags unattended at the festival. We are unable to take any responsibility for loss. Please ensure your phones are placed in silent mode, and if you must take an urgent call, to do so outside the venue. We would be grateful if you give up seats for those who may not be able to stand. No flash photography is needed or permitted in this venue. Please tweet using hashtag ZJLF or tag ZJaipurLitFest. You will be provided more information about the goodies you can win from this at the information desk. Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to introduce Scenes from a Writer's Life, sponsored by Dainik Bhaskar. Please welcome Ruskin Bond, who will be in conversation with Ravi Singh. He will be introduced by Vikas Singh. Vikas Singh is Associate Vice President, Brand Marketing with India's largest newspaper group and world's 4th largest newspaper, Dainik Bhaskar. A much awarded marketer, he has been a lifelong fan of Ruskin Bond. He first read him in class 7 and the story was The Night Train at Deoli. That began a love affair with writings of India's most celebrated author. He holds a Limca record for the largest collection of books by any single author. He has a collection of more than 150 books. He also manages a Facebook page on Ruskin Bond. He has also been writing regularly on his favorite author. He is currently working on a book called Travel Diaries with Ruskin Bond. Please welcome our speakers for today.
Where are you staying, Ravi? Where are you staying?
They can hear us.
Acha, okay. So we have to be careful what I say now.
Amidst all the media frenzy surrounding, the new Anglo-Indian writers like Salman Rushdie, Arundhati Roy, Vikram Seth, Amitabh Ghosh, stands apart Ruskin Bond, the gentle dreamer from Garhwal Hills. His writings have always reflected the very smells and sounds of this country. His writings have been a reflection of his Indian soul. Eccentric and sometimes even murderous uncles, granny, grandpa, mischievous school children have delightfully seeped into his stories, which are often laced with nostalgia, longings and unfinished episodes of romance. Despite having lived in Mussoorie for a long part of his life and later in Landore, he has not left or allowed his imagination to rot. There is something strange, a magnetic attraction about Mussoorie because it has managed to attract so many writers. Other than Dublin, this is the only place on this planet with such a high density of authors. Whether it is Bill Atkin or Ganesh Shaili or Stephen Alter or the Gantes or even Ruskin Bond, the list is endless. But it's only this author who has brought alive the smells of the hills in his writings. Like R.K. Narayan brought alive Malgudi to the hearts of thousands of his fans, Ruskin has done the same with Dehradun, or shall I say Dehra. I was myself heavily disappointed when I walked out of Dehradun railway station on a hot sultry afternoon of June 1989 because the city was very different from the city he had painted in his writings. But alas, the times had changed. Ruskin Bond's writings have warmed hearts of generations of readers. First the parents and their children later have found solace, pleasure and even companionship in his books. The long serpentine queue outside the Cambridge bookstore on the Mussoorie Mall Road is a testimony to his popularity. Yesterday, Penguin brought out a special 60th year anniversary issue of his first novel, The Room on the Roof. He was already a published author before he published his first novel. So for the last 60-65 years, he has been creating magic with his pen. He never had a writer's block, and thank God for that. And we do hope that he continues to create magic with his pen. In an interview to Indian Express in June 1998, he said, "I still write in longhand. I recently bought for myself a mobile phone, and while trying to get a proper network, I dropped it down the window. I pretty much could have fallen down the window myself." That, ladies and gentlemen, is Ruskin Bond for all of us. A witty, cheerful author with always a smile on his face and a mischievous prank in his eyes, with, like you can see right now also, with his hair neatly combed like a schoolboy.
Had a haircut just before coming, actually.
In conversation with him today will be Ravi Singh. Now Ravi has worked at both ends of the spectrum. He has worked with the largest publishing firm in the country, Penguin, and with a boutique publishing firm, Alf, before he decided to branch out on his own with the Speaking Tiger. Ravi has been publishing regularly Ruskin Bond, and we do hope, Ravi, that you continue to do so.
Oh, of course, yeah.
We all are eagerly waiting for your publication of Ruskin Bond's autobiography later this year. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give to you India's most loved, most adored, most talked about, most written about author, Ruskin Bond, in conversation with Ravi Singh.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Well, I can't make love to all of you at the same time, but I would love to actually. But I can feel the affection and warmth emanating from you and coming towards me. It's great to be with you. I'm really moved and touched. Thank you.
It's phenomenal each time we watch Mr. Bond addressing people. I just look at the number of people, and so there's hope for books. There'll always be hope for books. So people keep telling you that booksellers, readers, etc., that things are bad. They're not bad. Here's proof that things are great. I thought, Mr. Bond, are we playing the AV now or later? Because
No, I think they've already played the AV.
okay, good. Okay. I thought I'd ask you something that Vikas told me about, that he discovered your first published story, My Calling.
Yes.
So was that the first story you wrote, or was it The Untouchable? Because
No, Untouchable was the second or third.
Okay.
The first story was called My Calling, and I wrote it just after finishing school. That was 1951. So you can see how ancient I am. And it was a skit actually on one of my school teachers. And I had just finished school that year, and they weren't very happy up at my old school, I'm afraid. And they didn't send me my character and school leaving certificate because I had poked fun at one of my teachers. And I'm still waiting for it. Now, how many years have gone? 65 years. Maybe I send a reminder now to my old school. Can I have my school leaving certificate? But it shows that even if you're thrown out of school, it shouldn't stop you from doing something useful in life. And
but and I've always believed that one of the reasons why, as Vikas said, of course, generations, people old and young have read you and enjoyed, but children love you more. And I believe it's also because you encourage them to mischief. I remember where you, in a story where you talk about running away from school, and you recommend it as something that more people should have done. Boring people should have run away from school, would have made them more interesting. But just tell us about the time that you did run away from school.
if you're going to run away from school, make sure you have enough pocket money with you. Because the time I ran away from school, I neglected that. And so the very next day, when I felt very hungry, I came limping back in time for lunch. So these things have to be planned out well in advance. And but my honest advice to you is, don't run away from school. Make your teachers run away from school.
There's more. You also you have characters talking to teachers. A little girl who turns into a panther to get rid of a teacher she doesn't like. You have this young boy who spikes his really annoying uncle's food or drink with arsenic. And children love those kind of stories. So it's a bit disappointing that you're asking them not to run away from school. But now,
No, but there are various ways of dealing with teachers, of course.
Yeah.
But the best way to deal with them is love your teacher, and teacher will love you then. They don't like that advice at all.
See? No, so I did want to come back to The Untouchable. You wrote that when you were 16, I think, right?
Which one?
Untouchable.
17, 18.
17, 18.
Right.
And was that, because many of the stories you've said, in a sense autobiographical, and that I found that is a very moving story, and at that young age,
Yes.
the empathy that you had, was that based on real life incidents?
It was, to some extent. A lot of my stories, particularly the early ones, were based on actual experience or upon characters or people I'd met and known. But being an imaginative fiction writer, I often then weave the actuality into a fictional narrative to create an interesting story. So you'll find a lot of my stories and work are really a mixture of fact and fiction, because in order to tell a good story, sometimes you have to manipulate in a way the characters, the facts, bring in new people, leave out some. So this is all just part of the learning process, which continues no matter how old you are. You can always be a better writer, and I'm always trying to be a better writer.
The characters like The Untouchable, and then later in The Room of Many Colors, you had this Maharani locked away. There was another one, Most Beautiful, about this young boy who's a difficult childhood. And many of the characters that you write about, even adults, not just children, are in a sense, what we call rejected, neglected, lonely by choice or circumstance.
Yes.
And what was it that drew you to people like that? Was it the circumstances of your own childhood?
Yes, I think if you have a lonely childhood and a difficult one, it will probably make you more sensitive to the problems of other children, especially when you've grown up. So I have often written stories about disadvantaged or children or those who are having difficult times because I see something of myself in them, and so the empathy and the sympathy goes out to them. So I think that, and I think many well-known and famous writers have had difficult childhoods. I think you can think of Charles Dickens for one, or the Bronte sisters, or many authors of classics, because I think that in a way, when they're older, it helps them to depict honestly and truthfully the world of childhood and the problems that you have as young people.
Was it, because you have written about one of the reasons why your childhood was in a sense difficult, lonely, which isn't to say that you were always lonely. It had its rewards, of course. But one of the reasons was your parents' separation. But was the fact that you were of British descent, did that set you apart from the society that you were in? Was that also something that contributed to the loneliness, or this sense of being apart when you were here?
Yes, to some extent. I think certainly if I always, even today, I get very disturbed and upset if I see a married couple, adults who got children, if I see the parents quarreling, it bothers me because I feel it's going to have in some way an effect on the children. So I do think that parents must always put their children first before they venture out on their own trying to solve their own problems. First look to your children.
Right. And together with that, having written about your parents' relationship, you have written about your father quite a lot, and what I find remarkable is that in your writings he comes across as somebody who is actually a friend. You forget almost that he was a father. There was what must have been about 30 or more years separating you. He was like a companion, and there's such tenderness in So was he in a sense your first friend?
Yes, he was indeed, because I must have been 8 years old, and we were living in Delhi, and he would often take me around to old monuments, Humayun's tomb, the Red Fort, Chandni Chowk, and tell me the stories, the history behind these places. So in a way that was the genesis of my becoming a writer. And sadly I lost him when I was only 9 or 10, but that relationship is still with me. So some things don't go away no matter how many years pass. If the bond is a strong one, it remains with you all your life.
He was in the RAF, wasn't he?
Yes, at that time during it was World War II.
Right. World War II. And your mother, of course, with whom after a long time.
Yes.
So one of the most moving stories is about meeting her for the last time. But the inspiration that you had from your father, the strength that he gave you, and then of course reading, he encouraged you, and you say that's a habit that you owe to him. But in your writing, in your character, in your general outlook to life, and I may be mistaken, but the optimism, the spirit, and I suppose a certain quality of a kind of sensuality in the loving life, being able to connect with people, spirit of adventure. I somehow feel that's something that you inherited from your mother, her spirit. And,
that's true. I think it took me many years to perhaps understand and see my mother's point of view better, and that happened only as I grew older. But this is supposed to be a funny session. Why are we becoming so serious?
But I think it's important for people to know that behind all of this,
Yes, true enough.
there are things that drove you to write. I mean, also which made you seek friends, because in your writing and also in your life,
That's true. I was always looking, as a young man,
easily, yeah.
sort of looking for the ideal friend.
Yeah.
And it's only when you get older that you realize that you mustn't look for perfection in your friends. You must look for affection. And that's the important thing.
And you managed to keep most of those relationships, the friendships going, even after 50 years, 60 years or longer?
Yes, some, true enough, yes. Somi, who's in the room on the roof, after 50 years, he'd been living abroad all this time.
Right.
And about a month or two back, he turned up and met me, and he'd be just a few years younger than me, but he was just as young and charming and affectionate as ever.
What does he do now there? He's in the UK, is he, or is he?
Yeah, in America.
And what does he do?
Oh, he's an engineer.
Many of your friends have done very well for themselves. These childhood friends.
Yeah. Well, most of them did well. One did end up in Tihar jail, but he's doing well there too.
Who is this?
No, I can't tell you. I must keep the identity secret so that when he comes out, we can rehabilitate him.
And from friendship, let's move on to love. And you said often that you had this habit of falling in love very often.
Yes,
And
far too easily.
And you continue to fall in love. Still.
Unfortunately, I don't get the love back. See,
There's a lot of love. Look at this.
yes, I do get back a lot of it. That's true.
Right. It's not a total love. And again, you say it's supposed to be funny, and I'm sorry, I'm making it a little serious. In the context of love, there's this line which has stayed with me in one of your stories. It's remarkable, where you said, I fell in love with someone fell in love with me, and both loves were unrequited, but life carried on. And so how was that? Would you like to talk about some of these? I mean, even without naming them, who may have changed you in a way, and contributed to your life?
I'm feeling very shy now.
About the girl from Vietnam. The story when you started in the UK.
I'm trying to remember.
Whom should you honor?
The first time I tried to kiss a girl and she tried to kiss me and we missed each other.
Where was this?
I was very small then.
And was she older?
No, about the same.
Okay. Because in the room, handful of nuts.
10 years old. 10 years old.
She was 10 years old.
And so was I.
So we, okay. And is she still around?
Well, if she's around, she'd be 81.
And she'd remember you, I'm sure.
She'd remember me missing the kiss.
Tell us a bit, Mr. Bond, about your decision finally. But you did go to the UK, and you worked there for a couple of years, and that is where your first book was published.
That's true. Yeah.
And it was Diana Athill, the legendary editor who selected your book and worked closely with you, and it was published there. But then you decided, just when your book had been accepted, it was going to be published, and you decided to come back to India.
Yeah.
And then you never left India, in a sense.
Yes.
Why was that? What?
You see, when I finished school, 1950-51, and I came home, and my mother asked me, now, what do you want to do with yourself, Ruskin? And I said, Mama, I think I'm going to be a writer. She said, don't be silly, go and join the army. In those days, the army was where most boys went, because you didn't have the very wide selection of careers that you have today. And anyway, I did if I joined the army, there would have been another Beetle Bailey in the ranks. So I was shipped off to England to relatives, and I took a job there because I didn't have much money. So I've always, all my life, been ready to do any kind of work. But the minute I get a chance to go back to full-time writing, I do that. So, but while I was in Britain and living with relatives, I was very homesick. Not so much for home, but for friends, for places, for the India in which I'd grown up. And that's when I started writing this book, The Room on the Roof, which was really about the Dehradun I'd left behind and the friends I'd left behind. And I had this advantage in that last year in India, I kept a journal or diary. So a lot of that material got used up in writing the book, although I was now fictionalizing it, as I always do, and weaving it into a story. So it took me a couple of years to find a publisher. It wasn't easy in those days. It still isn't. And anyway, I finally did, and there was this sympathetic, helpful editor you mentioned, Diana Athill. But I got fed up of waiting for the book to be published. So in those days you got a £50 advance. That was the standard advance back in the 1950s. But it was enough to bring me back to India. You traveled in those days by sea, and you came by, and so the fare was about £40 actually. Took you about 3 weeks. Finally got down in Bombay and still had £10 with me. So came home to Dehradun, and I had an old typewriter, and so I just immediately started banging out stories, articles, and bombarding every magazine and newspaper in our country. And then The Room on the Roof got published in England, and a few copies turned up in Dehradun, and 2 or 3 friends I had, we went out and celebrated. Now in those days, there were no literary festivals, there were no book fairs, there were no book launches. If you wrote a book, you were lucky to get it published, and if you went to a bookshop, you'd be very lucky to see it there. And I remember going to a bookshop in Delhi and looking around for my book like any young author would do, couldn't see it anywhere. And then I saw it right under a stack of bestsellers, I forget the bestsellers of that era, this is in the 50s. And I looked, if this bookseller was looking or not. He wasn't. So I took it out from under the pile and put it on top. So everybody could see my book. But the shop owner, the bookseller, he'd seen me doing this. So he walked across, he didn't know I was the author of course. He walked across, picked up the book, looked at it, and he said, "Ye nahi chalta." And he put it back under the pile. So to teach him a lesson, I bought it. Sometimes authors had to buy their own books in those days.
Well, for many years now you've been having sweet revenge. They don't put your books right on top, and the others go. Good one. But and then when you came back to Dehradun, another remarkable character from your life, whom you've also written about, put in his BBG. Who was BBG was the wife of the man of your stepfather's
first wife.
Yeah, stepfather's first wife, who shouldn't have had any reason to be kind to you and give you lodgings and keep you.
No, that's true. She was quite fond of me, and I used to help her in her shop. She had a little provision store.
Right.
And she was a big, strong woman, not no fairy, and could pick up sacks of grain and flour and throw them around.
Yeah.
And she ran this little store on her own, and I have written a bit about her, but maybe there'll be more about her in my biography.
There should be lots. She's quite a character.
Yes.
And then after that, some years you were there, and then you came to Delhi. You were here freelancing, and then eventually you decided to move to Mussoorie, and that has been home now for
a long time.
How many years? But 50?
You were saying something about Mussoorie having brought about so many writers going there. But I don't think it's the place that makes a writer. I was a writer long before I went to live in the hills. If you're a writer, you can be a great writer living in Jaipur, you can be a great writer living in the far south or in a village for that matter. Premchand lived in a village most of his life. So you don't, I don't think it's the place. The place is helpful. I mean, obviously, if you're happy in a certain environment, as I am in the hills and close to nature, it will help you in your writing. But being a writing is something that's born in you. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can be living in a hut. You can do your writing in a train or even in difficult circumstances, in a prison. Many great books have been written in prisons, Victor Hugo and others. So the place is helpful, is important, but it doesn't make you the writer that you are.
But you chose it because, what is it about Mussoorie? Why did you, I mean, you said, of course, one practical reason.
I knew the area. No, for purely practical reasons I went up to the hills and chose Mussoorie because A, I knew the area, having grown up in the Doon Valley. B, although I was fed up of living in Delhi, I still wanted to be in touch with publishers and editors and all who were in Delhi, and it was close. In 7 or 8 hours you could come down in a bus. It takes a little longer now because the traffic is heavier, but now there are other ways of getting there. So that was another reason. And basically it was very, very cheap for a struggling writer in those days to go and live in a hill station. It isn't anymore, but back in the 50s, 60s, I rented a small cottage near the forest for annual rent of 500 rupees per annum, not per month, per annum. So that's cottage today, they will be charging a rent of about 50,000 rupees a month. So you see how, what's it called, inflation, or the world has changed.
It's terrible times.
And so I have to write harder to get books published and to make enough money to live on. So it's a vicious circle, as you will find now as you grow up trying to make a living. The more you earn, you'll find the more you have to spend.
But you did through the years, and you freelanced, and after you moved to Mussoorie,
yes,
you worked briefly for Imprint, but that is it. After that, it's only been writing.
Yes, right. Yes. No, and even that magazine editing, I did it from there.
From there, you didn't move to, where was the office was in Bombay, I think.
Yes.
But you didn't move to, and then you worked with Care.
That was in Delhi.
That was in Delhi. Yeah. But apart from that, it has been writing, even though it was very difficult.
In Jersey, in the Channel Islands, I worked briefly with travel agency, Thomas Cook and Sons. And they'd opened they'd send a representative out from London to Jersey in the Channel Islands to run a small office there because a lot of tourists would come there. And this lady needed an assistant, so she took me on. I was only 16, 17 years old, not totally inexperienced. And then she started having a love affair with a gentleman who sold fire extinguishers, second-hand fire extinguishers. He'd paint them up and resell them, and leave me in charge of the office. And I would, sitting there with the telephone, getting calls from London, asking me to book people into hotels. And till today, I still get confused between twin beds and double beds. So the call would come, so-and-so, they want twin beds, somebody want double beds, and I was getting all mixed up. So people who wanted to sleep in the same bed, I was separating them and putting them in double beds. And people who were used to all their lives to living in separate beds, they were being put in the same bed. So there was a lot of confusion. And I got fired, of course. The lady got fired. I don't know if she ever married the fire extinguisher or not. The fire extinguisher. But so the office closed down after 3 months. So if anybody here wants to start a travel agency, I'm very experienced. You can employ me.
But I thought since there are so many people here and they, many of them, perhaps all of them would like to ask you questions. So the next 15 minutes or so, and we won't be able to take all questions, but we'll try. Yes, you raise your hand first. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Where is that person?
So you lived a little in Mussoorie, and I'm also from that place, Mussoorie and Dehradun.
You are seeing?
How much do you think Dehradun and Mussoorie have changed? Do you think these places have lost their charm?
All our towns have changed quite dramatically over the years. Dehradun in particular, in those years it was a small town, population about 40 to 50,000. And today that population is over 10 lakhs. So you can just imagine the effect it would have on the growth and the development or lack of development of the town. Hill stations have changed in a certain way. The hills can't change, of course, but the towns sometimes do. But I would say it's more our towns and cities that maybe have changed more dramatically over the years.
You and then you, sir. Just can you give the mic here, please?
Where is the speaker?
Oh, I didn't see you. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
सर दिस इज जयप्रकाश, मैं सर बहुत बड़ा फैन हूँ सर आपका, और बहुत सारी बुक्स आपकी सारी बुक्स पढ़ी है मैंने ऑलमोस्ट, जो थोड़ी सस्ती है, मतलब महंगी वाली नहीं पढ़ी है, और मतलब मैं सर आपके अपने एग्जाम्स में भी मैंने आपकी बुक्स पढ़ी है एंटी डिप्रेसेंट के लिए, और सर मैं पता नहीं सर, मैं डेलीगेट बनना चाहता था यहाँ पे, पैसे ही नहीं है मेरे पास, स्टूडेंट हूँ, लेकिन सर मैं आपके साथ थोड़ा टाइम स्पेंड करना चाहता हूँ, आप मेरे साथ लंच कर लीजिए, आप आइसक्रीम खाना चाहें आइसक्रीम खा लीजिए, आप सर प्लीज 5 मिनट्स 10 मिनट्स जो भी मेरे को देंगे दे दीजिए, आई विल नॉट बी अ बोरिंग पर्सन, प्लीज सर, प्लीज सर.
He wants to give me lunch.
He wants to give you lunch, and he said if you want ice cream, he'll feed you ice cream. Just 5 minutes.
I have a lot of people with me. You'll have to give them lunch too.
Yeah, we'll meet our sir. There's this little girl. We have to get.
Hello, myself Saloni Sharma. I am from Banentry School. I am 11 years old. I can't believe that I'm talking to you. I have a question that which of the best book you should suggest me to read that will help me in my career.
How old are you? How old are you?
11.
A book that you should read a book called Little Women. You'll enjoy that and it will help you too. It's not by me, Little Women. Little Women. Yes?
My God, yeah, it is. Yes. One of your
books, yeah. To help, but my book won't help you in your career.
Only that inspires.
Read the Blue Umbrella then. Blue Umbrella.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excuse me. There's the gentleman there.
Sir, I wanted to know about your adoptive family, which you mentioned in the...
We'll come back to you, ma'am. Just one question and then we'll, yeah.
Rape of the forest.
Okay, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I'm Dr. Kailash Gupta. I'm Managing Trustee of the International Emergency Management Society, and I'm also helping the organizers in disaster management evacuation. You said that, and I'm a non-fiction writer, I've got PhD, but you said that a writer is born. So my question is whether writer is born or one can learn to write fiction also.
A very interesting question. You can learn, of course, to write fiction, non-fiction. A certain type of writer is born, I would say. A writer who is very, you could say a subjective writer, who might be writing out of his own life, out of his own experience, out of his own soul, and using language in which to express himself, because basically writing is self-expression. But if you want to be a writer of history or of social affairs or a travel writer, you can of course learn to write. You can improve your writing. You can to work on it. So I mean, and even a born writer, if I I think of myself as one. I would also endeavor to improve my writing style, my language, because no matter how well you write, you can always write better. So you must keep on working on it. But there's nothing to stop you from writing or from improving your work.
You had a question, yes? Yes, then you.
Hello, sir. Namaskar. Sir, I wanted to know about your adopted family, which you have mentioned in the Rain of the Forest.
You want me to adopt you?
No, sir. I am very much curious to know about that family.
Yes.
What happened to that?
You come to Missouri, you'll meet them.
The whole family is there?
Yes.
Okay. That Prem.
That's right.
So they are grown up.
Yes, Rakesh is grown up. He's brought me here. He's with me.
Oh. So we want to see him.
You can see him. I don't know. He's very shy. He may not want you to see him. He's there.
Okay, sir. One more question. Sir, in one of your stories, there was a pond you have written about, and one serpent came up. Do you remember that story?
A serpent came up out of a pond. Yeah, something in the water. That's right.
Yeah. So, is it true?
No, that story was a bit of fantasy.
Fantasy.
Yes.
Okay, sir.
Excuse me,
So
could
it
you...
was so real.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right there in the pink t-shirt, right? Yeah. I don't want to miss the young.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Where are you? Yeah, I can see you.
I am an English major student because you inspired me to be. So my question is, in one of your books, in the author's introduction, you wrote that these days it's very difficult to find a profession where you are never being seen, and that's why I like this profession.
Yes.
So why is it that a man with such intriguing thoughts and great works does not want to be seen?
Well, you see, writers, when I started writing, writers were not seen. You didn't have events like this. You did not have television.
Yes.
So a writer was usually not a face. Even a famous writer would be known very often by his name or her name. But you could pass him or her on the street and you wouldn't know who that person was. So you could be anonymous as a writer. And that had a certain advantage because being anonymous, you could move amongst people and get to know them more easily because people were not it was informal. People were not approaching you because you were a writer, but you were just one of them. And so you weren't being noticed all the time. You could watch people without being watched. But I'm sitting here, you're all watching me. I can't watch each of you individually unless I know you personally. So there was a great advantage in being anonymous for a writer. It's because things have changed now. And part of the whole business of publishing and books and selling them is to get writers to come out into the marketplace and have to sell their own books. Otherwise maybe nobody will buy them. That's it.
This young boy there, and then we'll have to go there. Yeah, you, and right at the back, yeah?
Hello sir, my name is Raghav. I'm from Mirza Modi School and I'm a huge fan. So you talked about an incident where you kept your bestseller on the top. So I want to know that was your past useful? Was your past the one that made you where you are? And what do you feel about your past? It was necessary in your life for was that the thing which made you who you are? Thank you.
The past? Sorry,
past.
Yes,
Past.
Yes, you're right. We are all, in a way, as we grow up and as we get older, influenced and governed by the past. We can't escape it. And sometimes we allow the past to overcome us and maybe give way to depression or a sense of failure. because of early difficulties. So the past is always with us and we can't escape it, but we must try to use it to the best advantage and allow our past in a way to help us, to assist us in making a better life for ourselves. Because the more problems and difficulties we have, the more we learn from them.
My question to you is, you write very much about nature. Why so?
Because I love nature. I love birds, I love trees, I love mountains, I love streams, because you get so much back from nature. And if you live close to nature as I have from time to time, you'll never run out of material, you'll never run out of anything to write, because the natural world is constantly changing around you. There will be every month new flowers on the hillside, new leaf in the trees, new animals, birds, and so it's a changing world, and yet it's a world that doesn't change, if you know what I mean. So nature will not only inspire you, but it will help you to live a better life, definitely.
Thank you sir, that was a nice answer. I love your work and you're very cute.
Thank you.
Hello sir, I come 10 years ago to Mussoorie, to your house with my father to meet you. And at the time you signed a very tattered copy of Delhi is Not Far From Me.
I hope you got a new copy.
My question was, at the time I was desperate to see a picture of your father because I felt like a lot of your writing was affected by him. Is that the case, and how? In what way did your father affect your writing?
Well, in the sense that that year or two that I've spent with him, when there was just the two of us living together, and well, he encouraged me to keep a little diary or journal and note down things in it. He wasn't a great reader. He was a stamp collector, so he would, we totally absorbed every evening in his stamp collection. But from those stamps he would tell me a lot of history, because he would tell me the story behind each postage stamp, and which came from different countries. So I learned geography, I learned history, amongst other things. And of course, he did give me books, he gave me records, and spent a lot of time together. So I think it was not entirely my father. I did have good teachers, one or two good teachers at school. And of course, the important thing was a library. One good thing my school did have was a good library. Now you can get a lot from your parents, you can get a lot from your teachers, but you will get a tremendous amount, an unlimited amount of help from books, from reading, from either a good library or your own collection or your parents' collection. So basically, because I was a book lover, I became a writer. So simple as that.
Okay, so just one question then. Can we just go to the back? I think we've been neglecting people at the back. Yeah?
Myself, Komal Parnami, and I'm a great admirer of yours because you write so much for children. And you're such a down-to-earth personality. I'm very inspired by you. Can you please give me some tips on how to be a successful writer?
Well, that will take a long time. Thank you. But certainly, firstly, you must be a lover of books. There is no great or successful writer who was not a reader, a book reader. So that's the first step. Second, don't ignore the language you write in. That's all important. So pay attention to grammar, to composition, to putting a good sentence together. Then work on your style. Try to have an original style of your own. Try to be different. Say things in a different way, but say them simply. say them clearly. Read the writers who, there are certain writers whose style was so clear and simple that you couldn't misunderstand them in any way. I think of writers like Bernard Shaw or Somerset Maugham or even earlier classical writers, because language is all important. You're going to express yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, but the language you use is all important. So work on your language, on your style, and read as widely as you can.
All of that applies to Mr. Bond's own writing. The back, now, okay, right here, one of these three, there, she's going to grab the mic from you anyway, yeah. You can ask a question from there, it's okay, we'll save time.
Sir, I am Kavya Sharma from Rukmani Birla School, and I am a huge fan of yours, and I have read Mr. Oliver's diary at least 5 times. So I want to ask that, can you recall how your interest in writing originated?
Well, my interest in writing began with books, as I was saying earlier. What was the first book I read? I think it must have been Alice in Wonderland. And a very tattered old copy it was, but I read it several times. Then there were things like nursery rhymes and Peter Pan, and then I grew older and I'd read adventure stories, Treasure Island and Kidnapped and Mr. Midshipman Easy, and then I grew a bit older. Then I would be reading adult novels by the time I was 12, 13. I've read all of Dickens, and you just carry on and on. You don't stop reading. So I must have read about 10,000 books so far in my life.
Thank you so much, sir.
Can you pass the mic to the back, please? Yeah, yes, please. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Tanisha, and I want to ask that, is it really you've never had a writer's block like Mr. Ravi and Vikas mentioned?
No.
And also all that flow of ideas you've always had. I mean...
No, you do get I do occasionally get writer's block, more from laziness than anything else, but the best thing is keep a waste paper basket close to you. And if you're stuck and you can't continue, you can write it again, just crumple it up and put in the waste paper basket. Write something else.
Sorry, we've run out of time, very sorry. You can interact with Mr. Bond after this when he's signing, because over to you. Yes. Shout your question, okay, just one last question, just shout it out. Later, Baba.
She wants me to sing and dance, I think. No?
Because.
Excuse me. I'm here, please. Here I am. In front of you, pink. You can't see me, Ruskin just in front of you.
There she is.
Where?
There, just near the camera.
Yeah, I have come from Bhilwara, it's in Rajasthan only.
Yeah.
And I'm literally shaking because you are my huge crush and love and everything. So I just want to meet you, and I'm speechless. So I don't know what to say, just want to meet you.
And get a book signed.
Yeah.
Meet him, yeah. Please. Sorry, we're running out of time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now have the unveiling of a Dainik Bhaskar book compiled by Vikas Singh, which includes all interviews that Mr. Bond has given till date. He will be presenting it to Sir Ruskin Bond for the unveiling.
Hi. So just have a... You find it interesting when you see it so tightly.
Thank you. I wish I had that figure still. Thank you. Thank you. This will be very helpful. It's a collection of the interviews I've given over the years. I'll know from this how often I've contradicted myself.
That's what you were discussing.
And how many lies I've told.
With this, we come to the end of today's session. We wish to thank Sir Ravi Singh, Sir Vikas Singh, and Sir Ruskin Bond. We would also like to present them with scarves for our gratitude. I would request the audience to not block the way for Sir Ruskin Bond to reach the book signing venue, where you will all be able to meet him. The author will be available to sign the books at the book signing area, where books will be available for selling, and you can also buy the books from the bookstore right next to the venue. Thank you so much. We also request the audience to keep the aisle empty and let Sir Ruskin please go towards the bookstall. Thank you so much. The author is not available to be met with near the stage area. He will be at the book signing venue within 5 minutes. Thank you. Collaborate with us in our attempt to save paper. Receive the Next Hours program on your phones by giving a missed call on 9251 301 339.
Across boundaries, we believe in bringing the world together through entertainment. Z Entertainment, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. The world is my family.
हीरे मोती से कब तुलती हैं खुशियाँ, शोहरत तो दिल की कमान।
मूवीज और म्यूजिक के 71,21,302 मिनट, ये सब फिट होता है एक छोटी सी दुनिया में।
Free music, movies and games only on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Amidst the color and vibrancy of the Jaipur Literature Festival, soak in the stimulating, thought-provoking sessions. Take a pause to catch your breath at our festival merchandise stalls. Choose from a range of products especially crafted to take the magic of the festival back home with you. All products will also be available online at directcreate.com/JLF16. Remember, you first saw them at JLF16.
The all-new Ford Endeavour, designed for any terrain, engineered for the extraordinary. Innovations in our most capable SUV, the all-new Ford Endeavour.
There's this magic about India.
अभी जितनी आज़ादी मिल गई है, इतना ज़्यादा फास्ट जा रहा है इंडिया हमारा, ये कुछ पता नहीं सकते।
There is nothing in this world that you can't do. You just need to get yourself out of the bed and start doing it, man.
Asking me, is it going to rain? They don't know what's going on in the world. I'm the most educated guy in this village. I'm the only guy who can speak in English. So I have access to internet. They don't know the uses of internet. They can't imagine that internet can be used for education purpose.
Let it fall upon you.
If you give these two tools, English language and internet, I can bet on this. It's going to change everything.
Hello guys, as you can see, this is my house and no Wi-Fi at my house. This is my neighbor come friend, no Wi-Fi in his house, but yes, Wi-Fi is there at his neighbor's house. Yeah, so me and my friend come neighbor sit here and used my neighbor's house Wi-Fi. India is a country of brotherhood. We are
going to begin with our next session in 15 minutes. May I please request the audience to let Ruskin Bond reach the book signing area.
It's 4 o'clock in the evening. I'm currently standing outside my house on my field. What technology brings to here is truly amazing. It can change people's lives. I work as a web developer from my own house, from my own bedroom, and now I have 10 Mbps fiber optic Wi-Fi. About 5 years ago we didn't even have proper dial-up connection. It's amazing how a simple internet connection can change people's lives. I can now make amazing mobile apps from my own house.
There are so many things about India which are just amazing.
We have so much people here and the diversity.
If you think that you are not capable of doing anything, you are wrong.
communication, education, technology, transportation, population, politician. We are gonna make this nation, we are gonna develop this nation. I am a citizen of a very great and wise country, and I am proud of it.
Humanities makes us ask the big questions. What's it all about? What's the purpose of life?
What does it mean to lose someone? What is loss about?
Nature of the human being, guilt and innocence. It's like the pulsating brain of the universe.
More than a place, it's a spirit of inquiry.
Major intellectual crossroads of the universe.
There's a sense of curiosity, excitement.
Issues that won't stay still in one
The
discipline.
Humanities Center is really the beating heart of this university.
नगर या शहर, राह गलिया डगर, गाँव नगर या शहर, आसमां छूने चला है इंडिया, आसमां छूने चला है इंडिया। दिन या जहर, स्वच्छता है एक लहर, ये लहर उठा चुका है इंडिया, फैसला ये कर चुका है इंडिया। बनेगा बनेगा बनेगा बनेगा बनेगा बनेगा स्वच्छ इंडिया, बनेगा बनेगा स्वच्छ इंडिया। बीमारियों को देश मेरा छोड़ना होगा, कोना कोना स्वच्छता से जोड़ना होगा। स्वच्छता से इंडिया जगमगाएगा, विश्व सारा इंडिया के गीत गाएगा। बेटियां स्कूल में गुनगुनाएंगी, आशा की सुबह संग मुस्कुराएंगी। बेटियां स्कूल में गुनगुनाएंगी, आशा की सुबह के साथ मुस्कुराएंगी। यहाँ वहाँ इधर उधर जहाँ भी जाएगी नजर, कह रहा है ये सफर स्वच्छता का रंग भर। आसमां छूने चला है इंडिया, आसमां छूने चला है इंडिया, फैसला ये कर चुका है इंडिया, फैसला ये कर चुका है इंडिया।
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Charbagh for our second session for today. We are delighted to introduce Christoph Jaffulot, Reema Abbasi and Venkat Dhulyapula in conversation with Shyam Saran. Please welcome the speakers onto stage. Thank you.
You need to check? They may. Are we ready? Sure. Okay. So, good afternoon to all of you and welcome to this session with some of our most distinguished writers. I think I don't need to introduce them, but let me start the ball rolling by first starting with you, Reema. It's really quite a coincidence that we have someone like you who has really sort of tapped into something which perhaps very few of us have been aware of, which is the fact that a lot of the Hindu temples, places of worship still seem to not only survive but even flourish in Pakistan. And I found that particularly encouraging because we have recently had, instead of the Pakistan paradox, we had the Pathankot paradox. We have just yesterday had this terrible incident in Charbagh. A vulgar incident in a sense, because it took place on the anniversary of Badshah Khan, somebody who's been very well known here in this country as the frontier Gandhi, someone who really believed in non-violence, was committed to non-violence, committed to plurality, something which is become something of a dirty word in some circles these days. And so this particular attack was particularly frightening because it seemed to be a very blatant assault on the kind of values that Badshah Khan stood for. So even though we will debate about the Pakistan-India issue, but also where Pakistan is headed, perhaps you could tell us, is there a deeper affinity that cuts across our entire subcontinent? Is there a message that we are missing? Is there something that we need to look at in terms of that deeper sense of affinity, a deeper celebration, if you would like to call it, of diversity, which still keeps for us a sense of common humanity?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have a book session on the 24th, so I won't take it in that direction. But there is so much that is completely forgotten about Pakistan because of the whole terror question. And every time you try to write an article or a feature or there's a comment or you're protesting against something, this question, all the comments that one gets is about the terror aspect of it. I think the entire war on terror that Pakistan's been fighting, I think since for the last year, over a year, I think it's treating symptoms at the moment. Despite the fact that in the first 3 months of 2015 we had 33,000 executions, and booked under close to 28,000 cases. But we have to start with madrasa reforms, and unless madrasas, which are the incubators of these suicide attacks and bombers, unless they're attacked and addressed, and there are reforms, and what the curriculums are, that has to go through a complete overhaul. And the textbooks that which are called Pakistan Studies, that's a state-controlled text that is taught to students. So very few dig deeper and very few want to know the reality of
But does that mean that because of what you mentioned, the fact that these textbooks, these madrasas are a source of education for want of anything better, is it the case that what we associate with exclusivism, what we associate with fundamentalism, is that becoming somewhat mainstream in Pakistan? Is that a danger that we should be looking at? Because that message is very different from what, for example, in the book that you did, that message is actually very different from what's...
See, that's why it's the Pakistan paradox. Pakistan is a classic paradox in the sense that you have the public narrative, which is completely at odds with the state narrative. And unfortunately, I think we'll have to say that the international community has also somehow given the state narrative a louder voice, more space than to the public narrative, and our spaces have faced a lot of erosion, and therein lies the problem.
Yeah, but where do you see the trend? The last question, where do you see the trend line? Is it that the kind of narrative that you are talking about, which is the public narrative, is that still something which is enduring? It is still something which is very strong, or is that other narrative in fact taking over?
Well, now is the time. We're at a very interesting time right now, because after the Peshawar carnage, the army school where we lost 134 children, and now yesterday's again entire another it's on the next young children. So since the Peshawar carnage, it's completely changed. The civil society is so empowered, the media, the civil society, the activists, they're so empowered that nothing goes unnoticed, because no one wants to give that space away now. Whatever space that has been taken away from activists. So basically the real danger is for progressives, moderates, the Shia majority, and as you know, Ahmadis. So that is...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me turn to you, Christoph. Some positive trend, it would appear, especially after Peshawar. There seems to be some growing consensus that this is something which is eating away at Pakistan's own, guts in a sense. And yet, I think reading your book, it would appear to me that there is a certain Pakistan establishment, and I very much agree with you that maybe it's not good to make a very fine, very strict dividing line between the military and the political elite. There is a broader elite which rules Pakistan and has been ruling for a long time. That particular state seems to still have an interest in not bringing about the kind of fundamental change that you like, including say the textbooks or the madrasas, that continues intact. So in terms of the future, and I grant that especially after Peshawar there has been some change, but as far as that particular state is concerned, and certainly looked at from the point of view of us in India, not much seems to have changed. What is your view?
Well, it's the question of the glass half full or half empty. There's been indeed a real... Oh, you can't hear me? Is that better now? I will hold it. Sorry. Yeah, the question that Shyam is asking me is about how far has the change taken place after Peshawar in Pakistan. There's been some change definitely, and the National Action Plan, the NAP, has resulted in new measures, new targets. I mean, new groups have been targeted. Some of them have not been reported in the press the way they should have had been reported. For instance, the way the Lashkar-e-Jhangvi chief Malik Ishaq has been killed in a fake encounter recently is a departure from what used to be the order of the day in Pakistan till 2014. At the same time, yes, it's a selective targeting. It has always been. The moment a group goes out of hand, a new group has to be promoted, and he becomes the good Islamist against the bad Islamist. And there are still good Islamists for the security apparatus in Pakistan.
So it's not really half empty.
Well, the change is, I insist, the kind of repression you see in Punjab, South Punjab especially, and the kind of military operation you saw in Karachi, the Karachi operation, is not a joke. That is something Rahil Sharif initiated with the support of public opinion after Peshawar. So domestically, it is a different agenda. Internationally and regionally, yes, I understand your concern, because it makes no real difference so far as India is concerned. What I would just add on that front is that, of course, you asked with the future. The next step is what will go on in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a key variable in this equation. And I think the Indian media has not sufficiently underlined the fact that Pathankot and Mazar-e-Sharif took place after Narendra Modi went to Kabul giving helicopters to the Afghan army. So this is something unprecedented to my knowledge, and this is something the Pakistani army will not take in a good part. So you have this constant temptation to use jihadi groups to fight India on both sides, Afghanistan and Jammu and Kashmir, or now Punjab. And it's not only to derail the Nawaz Sharif Narendra Modi talks, it's also to send a message
Let me get on to something which is very important in your book, because you have, in terms of the paradox that you have spoken about, you have actually listed out several contradictions, and certainly I think one of the major contradictions is that you have a central government which wants a unitary state, but you have the reality of these provinces, each one of which has a certain identity, although you say that at least as far as Sindh and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is concerned, perhaps they have become more part of the national ethos rather than perhaps Balochistan or others. That may be the case. You have also a contradiction between the desire of the ruling elite have a good international image, because I think there is certainly a certain lack of self-esteem because of the fact that Pakistan is being presented as the cockpit of terrorism, Islamic fundamentalism. So there are liberal voices, but there is also the fact that there is a certain image or reputation of Pakistan which is very negative. You have a contradiction between authoritarian military rule, and you have democratic forces, civilian forces at work also, even though there is a certain, as we discussed, a certain elite. In terms of what I see managing these contradictions, and taking up from what you said, well, there are changes taking place, especially after Peshawar, but not as far as India may be concerned, because there is still a temptation to use such groups in order to target India. Do you think that in terms of the survival of Pakistan as a nation state, if really tomorrow India, for some miracle, is no longer a threat and not perceived as a threat, is that going to lead to the disintegration of Pakistan? Is that so fundamental to the survival of Pakistan?
It's a question we would have had problems to solve in the 70s, because after 71, when the country was so traumatized by the second partition, without India as the other against which you had to stick together, well, a kind of implosion might have been possible. Today, it's probably more complicated, because certainly Balochistan has already gone. I mean, in its mind, it's gone. Karachi is playing a very completed game, but it's always playing the election game and the terrorist, so to speak, game. The West is now part of a kind of nation state, because as time passes, you have institutions, you have an army that is now composed largely of not only Punjabis but also Pashtuns in large numbers, and also some Muajirs, including Musharraf, who was one of them. You have a parliament which is somewhat meaningful. You have a national media. You have, time makes a difference in the construction of a nation, in the nation building process. So disintegration may not result necessarily from the disintegration of India, if that was to happen by any chance, which is really a fiction. Plus, this is a country at the crossroad of three regions: South Asia, Central Asia, and the Middle East. And it is contained also by default, and it is somewhat, you mentioned the international dimension, it is somewhat a creation of the rest of the world. Who is paying for Pakistan in the end of the day? Except the Pakistanis who are in the Gulf countries, not Pakistanis, IMF, US, Saudi Arabia, and somewhat Chinese. So when a country is supported by the outsiders to that extent, and therefore you have a good reason for being together, you receive the dollars.
Well, a good reason for being together, but also perhaps a sense that why do we need to change? We are doing very well for ourselves.
That's exactly why
the United States of America is willing to give big dollars. If China says you are now part and parcel of our overall geopolitical strategy, why should Pakistan change? In fact, I think a lot of the Indians believe that Pakistan has been far more successful in its foreign policy than India has been. That Pakistan has gained much more. And in comparison, Indian diplomacy seems to have been somewhat flat-footed.
That's a very important point. That's a very important point, because as a foreigner, I keep telling my countrymen or others, stop helping Pakistan the way you are helping Pakistan, keeping Pakistan afloat, preventing Pakistan from making its own reform. For instance, look at the GDP, tax to GDP ratio. it is so low, it is one of the lowest in the world, simply because there's no need to tax the Pakistanis the moment the dollars come from outside. But if you do not have a real fiscal system, a real fiscal reform, you can't have a state, you can't have education.
Yeah, but
so that's a spoiler.
But Christoph, I don't think that, because this is so much related to, geopolitics and the interest that states have, in
that's why I don't insist on that. The point I wanted just to return to, because it's fundamental. Yes, the change is not the thing that is the most needed, felt as a need by the elite. And that's why it has not changed so much. The 2013 elections were presented as the beginning of a Naya Pakistan. Where is a Naya Pakistan?
No,
there is no new Pakistan, because in fact there is a kind of balance of power now, with Rail Sharif being really in command and Nawaz Sharif being the facade Pakistan needs for getting the money from outside.
Yeah, sure. But anyway, I mean, as far as the sense that we have in India, or some have in India, that Pakistan has been more successful, my response to that always has been that if Pakistan's success is counted on the basis of where Pakistan is today compared to, say, 50 years ago, and where India is today compared to 50 years ago, I would any day have India's failure rather than Pakistan's success. So I think that for me is
you can't say Pakistan is a success story in that sense.
So
and even per capita GDP will tell a different story.
Well, I mean, I'm not counting it only in terms of GDP. I'm counting in terms of what is the kind of society we want to build for ourselves. And I think despite all the problems that we have, in terms of still keeping alive a sense of liberality, of plurality, that is something which I believe is very important. And that is why I said I was very encouraged that Rima's book seemed to suggest that underneath all this there is still that underlay of plurality, of liberalism. Very good. But Venkat, your book seems to suggest that the factor of Islam and the sense that Pakistan would be, that new Makkah or new Medina, that it would be a place which would not only be a homeland for India's Muslim, but in fact would be almost like a new Vatican for the entire Islamic world. If we take that into account, then some of the things that have been happening in Pakistan with respect to jihadi terrorism, with respect to some move away from that plurality that we see glimpses of, to something much more stark, much more fundamental, very somber view of Islam, rather than the kind of subcontinental brand of Islam that we had. That would seem to suggest that there is a much deeper connection between that history of Pakistan as being visualized as the new Medina and in fact what we see playing out in Pakistan today. Linked to that history, and I was particularly in that context quite amazed at what you have written about B.R. Ambedkar's writings on Pakistan. I was not aware of that. But he presents in fact a case for Pakistan, because if we do have this huge element within the subcontinent, then India as a liberal, plural, secular democracy may not have been possible.
Yeah, thank you, Shyam. Is that okay?
Can you hear? Yeah, okay.
I think the idea that the presence of India as this, threatening other is what really keeps Pakistan together. I think that idea is, oversold. I think it's not as fundamental to Pakistan's identity as has been made out to be. I think Pakistan is not just something, it's not a country which defines itself simply in opposition to India. But if you look at the ideological origins of Pakistan, it emerges with a certain positive vision of itself. And what exactly is this positive vision of itself? Pakistan sees itself as I say, a new Medina, and both the terms, new and Medina, they have to be seen together. That this is going to be the new global leader of the Muslim world, of the Islamic world, which is going to pick up the baton which was dropped by the Ottomans at the end of World War I. That given the fact that Pakistan contains, Mr. Jinnah and his associates, including the ulama here, they see Pakistan as leading this new process because on the one hand, Indian Muslims have had the benefit of experiencing or going through colonial modernity on the one hand, and on the other hand, I think you have a section of the ulama, the Deobandi ulama, about whom we don't know much about, who come over.
But you have actually spelled out quite a bit of the debates that took place.
Absolutely, and so a whole section of the ulama are fairly close to Mr. Jinnah and the Muslim League elite. And this is not something which happens just when Pakistan is about to come into existence. There's a longer standing relationship between these two sides. So together, there is this idea, and if you look at the kind of rhetoric during the Pakistan movement, between 40 and 47, you have an intertwining of secular as well as religious concerns to kind of come up with this very powerful image of Pakistan as this new material.
Do you feel that that particular powerful image of Pakistan is still very much in place? I mean, is that something which has diminished over the last half a century or so? Because many of those very grand visions have not quite worked out. So is it that there is a more realistic sense of what being Pakistan is?
Yeah, on the one hand, what you say is true, but on the other hand, Pakistan does still try to somehow stake a certain claim to, let's say, prominence, if not preeminence in the Islamic world. So when the Pakistani bomb is exploded, it's the Islamic bomb. Or when Bhutto presides over the Islamic conference meeting in 1973, of course, Pakistan is portrayed as the citadel of Islam in the East. But I would believe that there is a longer continuity.
So what does that tell us about the future?
Well, that's a good question.
He believes that Pakistan is becoming more, in a sense, something of a normal state. But judging from what you are saying, and even if there was no Indian threat to keep Pakistan together, that particular idea of Pakistan, that particular sense of a very new kind of a center for the Muslim world, that I presume would still be very much a driver of Pakistani politics.
It could be, absolutely.
It could be.
Yeah.
So, in your view, I think people who seem to think that Jinnah was a secular liberal leader who accidentally, became a champion of Pakistan. You have said that's not the case. And I think the evidence that you have brought into your book does seem to suggest that that was not really the case. But as far as India is concerned, because whether we like it or not, we still have to deal with the challenge of Pakistan. And I would say that we have not quite found the way in which we can actually deal with the challenge of Pakistan. In terms of what you are saying, what is the best way to deal with Pakistan?
I think you have been India, you have been foreign secretary, you would have a better idea than me. But I think to begin with, one has to be realistic when dealing with Pakistan, and also be aware of the history which brought our two nations into existence. And I think that's a good place to begin with.
Yeah. You said that, as a foreign secretary, I may have had perhaps a better idea. I don't. I do, of course, feel that the kind of grand reconciliation that some of our leaders have been talking about, perhaps we should move away from that. The reason being that there is a sort of a different narrative that the two countries have. For example, why partition took place? The Indian view is very different from the Pakistani view. Why did Kashmir issue crop up between the two countries? The Indian side has a very different narrative about it. The Pakistani side has a very different narrative which still continues to be a very major driver. Why did Pakistan and India fight in 1965? Again, very different narratives. 71, even bigger difference in the two narratives. Even if you say Kargil, again a different narrative. So if you are looking at this kind of a divide in the narratives of the two countries, I feel that unless we begin a process which will take a very long time to actually bring these narratives in somewhat in alignment with one another, it is very difficult to see how we can actually establish a very friendly relationship. But we can at least, recognizing that, we can at least try and manage that relationship. How do you see this? I mean, what would be your advice to Indians as to how we should be, dealing with Pakistan?
See, there's been a lot of talk about the new Medina. Please, I mean, the Muslim Ummah, concept, is a sham. Stay away from it and don't believe in it. There's no such thing. I mean, as a Muslim from Pakistan, I cannot go and ask for asylum in Saudi Arabia because they will not give it to me. So, yeah, that's a myth. Secondly, no, Pakistan, I don't know where there is a huge disconnect here, because we're not trying to be New Medina in any way, because we have never voted the right in, and we've never brought the right into government. It's thrust itself upon us in the shape of General Ziaul Haq, and Pakistan's been distorted in the last 30 to 35 years because of Zia, right? And then a lot of things but he
was able to work upon some social and political.
You must bear in mind that Pakistani dispensations have been opportunistic dispensations. So there's been that history.
But how are they able to fool people all the time? I mean, that is what you are saying basically. That it's just a bunch of people who are, leading people astray.
But who is being led astray? See, as a journalist, as an activist, as a writer, I find that there is growing. See, out of 150 million are a good majority is under 30, right now in Pakistan, and there you will find that there is tremendous resistance, constant dissent towards any such rhetoric, and a lot of it has to do with resentment towards the way we or our media.
So how do we in India connect with those people? I mean, if they are people like that, then I would presume that one of the good things to do is for young Indians also to connect with them.
But there is a lot of exchange. There is a lot of connection.
We always another contradiction that on a personal level, Indian Pakistanis seem to get along quite well together, but the collective sort of frame of mind is still very divided.
But then when you talk of Bhutto, he is this poster boy of, liberalism, democracy in Pakistan.
He's the one who brought in Sharia.
Exactly. He was the chief martial law administrator who suddenly turned...
So was it because of what Venkat says, or was it because of what Christoph says?
Christoph speaks of Naya Pakistan, and we don't want that.
You don't want.
We don't want Imran Khan's Pakistan, because Imran Khan he voted against the women's bill. He wanted a Taliban office. I don't know what that means, but he wanted that in Peshawar. No, we want Purana Pakistan, which is reformed, which is liberal, which is.
And you are optimistic about that?
Of course, I think we're closer to it now than we were when these slogans of Naya Pakistan were emerging in 2013, and he threw a 4-month tantrum in the middle of the capital in the name of the Dharna. So we are, and we know that as a policy, 2016 is the year that it has been stated very clearly that we will eradicate terror. And of course, the retaliation, we're going to be a little cynical about that, but the retaliation is, you will notice that the pattern of peace is longer, and then the retaliation, of course, like yesterday's Charbagh or APS or Yuhanabad, the Ahmadi factory in Jhelum. They're definitely stronger, noisier.
Yeah, but the problem is that that doesn't seem to. We seem to be exempt from those kind of those kind of trends. We still get targeted. So there is some skepticism.
But do you understand that Pakistan is the greatest target of that terror mechanism? We've lost 80,000 Muslims to that.
It is recognized here and acknowledged here that Pakistan too has suffered from terrorism.
Of course.
But
yes,
I think the skepticism is here about why this does not translate into the diminution and elimination of groups which are targeting India, like the Jaish-e-Mohammed or the Lashkar Hafiz Saeed, and who spew venom each time they open their mouth with respect to India. So there is that contradiction.
Well, yes, and the paradox is that we have close to 62 banned outfits now, including the IS, and they're the most active banned outfits.
So, Christoph, what I wanted to ask, maybe that will be there. I just wanted to ask you, she seems to suggest that there is actually a new sort of surge of opinion against that kind of Islam or jihadism, and that we should recognize that, we should in some way encourage that. You have spoken about this very powerful state, which is both military as well as civilian, and now maybe the business community as well. They have profited a great deal. As I said, if you are sitting in Islamabad and you are looking at the world around you, you may be forgiven for thinking that you are actually doing quite well for yourself. In Afghanistan, you have now been given the lead role, as it were, for the peace settlement. This is a big change from 2001. If you are looking at China, China is not only treating you as a proxy against India, but China is also has given you a role in that broader, sort of geopolitical strategy that it has, of which the One Belt, One Road is a manifestation. By the way, Pakistan is the only country where the belt and the road meet together. So it has a particular importance. If you look at the American attitude today, again, when it comes to resuming arms supply to Pakistan or resuming atomic assistance to Pakistan, again, it has no reason to believe that it is actually doing badly. That may be the perspective of people from outside, but that doesn't seem to be the perspective as far as that particular group is concerned. And with respect to the relationship with India, I think when I see some of the writing about Mr. Modi's visit to Lahore, and then the Pathankot incident or the Mazar-e-Sharif incident. The sense is not that here is a man, powerful leader in India who's actually taken an initiative to improve relations, but this is a sign of weakness that he has had to do this, and we need to sort of press our advantage. Whereas the narrative here, as I said, is somewhat different. Is it your sense that the kind of forces that she is talking about, which are very different in aspirations than this particular elite, is there a likelihood of change in that elite?
Well, that indeed allows me to go back to one of the questions which was asked to you by Shyam about how can they fool all the people all the time? Because this is the key question. And here the elephant in the room is the army. If we miss the key role the army is playing everywhere almost, then we can't see why this is happening. Well, the army needs an enemy, and this enemy has to be India, and to continue with this antagonism using Jaish-e-Mohammed or LET is very convenient. When different voices arise, how can they indeed have their way? By repression, and we should never underestimate the repressive dimension of this regime, and self-censorship of the media is reflecting these repressive methods, and propaganda.
Do you see an increase in that as a journalist?
No.
Well, it depends about what we speak, but I've been told by journalists who prefer to come to my hotel room not to mention X and Y, because that would be a problem with their own chief. But it's well known that the army is never taken to the books right or wrong, and this is because there is so much at stake.
So therefore not much room for optimism.
But then the question is, will the army continue to side with extremists the way they have said? And the response is no, because of Peshawar, because of public opinion, because of changes on
that front. But they think that they can actually orchestrate which group they will support and which they will not.
And to some extent they can.
Yes.
Of course, many of them go out of hands, and then they have to invent new ones. And that's why there is a kind of dynamic. But here is the change. Plus, indeed, a new kind of middle class. You go to Karachi, you go to Habib University, you go to IBA, to Karachi University again. You have the youth you were mentioning.
Yeah.
You have the future of South Asia as a pacified region. So, if you ask what can be done, this is the investment that has to be done.
Okay. Welcome. Do you agree with that? Is there reason to be optimistic?
I think as a historian here in this panel, and somebody who kind of looked at the trajectory of the Pakistan movement ever from the time of the Lahore Resolution in 1940 till 47, when Pakistan and India come into existence. If you look at it, I guess Rima mentioned that if you talk about New Medina, this is something which you would associate with the far right, with the crazies in Pakistan. But I'm looking at the trajectory of the Pakistan movement during this point in time, and the people spouting this idea are not the extremists. This is pretty much the mainstream. It's Mr. Jinnah, the Muslim League, their associates, their supporters. Look at the two-nation theory to begin with. The whole idea that we are two separate nations, we cannot live with each other. and therefore we must have separate territories, separate nation states, so on and so forth. In addition to it, how does this two-nation theory get underpinned? What kinds of justifications are given to show how Pakistan is not just going to be a viable state, but also a very powerful state, and indeed, a leader of the Islamic world. One of the ideas which is constantly, out there in the public.
That I agree with. What I'm asking you is, do you see that this continues to be a kind of a mainstream trend in Pakistan, or is this something that is actually now receding into the background?
I personally don't see it receding at the moment. Now.
Okay, so I think we have had a very interesting exchange here amongst, and thank you very much for sharing all your views with us. So we have about 15 minutes, and you can raise your questions, but please, no comments, please ask a question. Secondly, please limit yourself to one question, and third, please identify yourself, and if you want to address a particular panelist with your question, please indicate who you would like that question to be answered. Okay. Yes, please.
My name is Ajay Achal. You probably know me, sir, or at least knew my father, who spent a lot of time in Pakistan. Taking the Pakistan army, which seems to be the bête noire of all the problems in the subcontinent, taking a leaf out of Turkey, which basically started off with Ataturk and İnönü, Gürsel and so on, and even today Erdogan is a very strong sort of character, takes no nonsense.
So will the Pakistan army become the Turkish army?
Well, will it, and can it be moved, and how do we move that?
Who would you like this question to be answered by?
Anyone.
Okay. Venkat?
I don't know.
He doesn't know. Do you know?
There is an interesting parallel. The Pakistani army needs Kashmir the same way the Turkish army needs the Kurds. The question therefore is, how do you reverse the terms? In Turkey, the only way they found out is to have an Erdogan, AKP at the top, which is not better. Because the only strong man who could dislodge army from where it was is capitalizing on an Islamist or Islamic militant discourse, which is taking Turkey in a, very dangerous direction. So, before changing the Pakistani army, we have to figure out what is the replacement.
Rima, the fact is that we had a civilian government for 5 years, and there was a democratic transition to another, which itself is an important change. Do you see from your standpoint that there is actually a fairly significant trend towards the army going back to the barracks and in fact allowing the democratic forces?
Yes, I think so. Because,
you see that?
Yes, because it's been, if you notice, it's never ever interfered with any of the day-to-day, democratic decisions, or take the dharna for Imran Khan's dharna, for example.
But people say that the army was behind that.
No, he wasn't, because otherwise he would have got somewhere.
Considerably weakened poor Nawaz Sharif.
Yeah, no. It has not weakened him. It strengthened him, in fact, because if you see, that was because one was living there. One can say that there is a huge disconnect between how we are viewing what is happening right there and the perception of it outside. That was a very critical juncture. We all thought that, okay, this is another coup. End of Nawaz Sharif and all that. And it went on for nearly 4 months. And he got nothing at the end of it except for a bribe.
So your view is that there is a trend in the right direction. Perhaps you think that it is much slower than it.
It's stuck. Democratization is stuck in Pakistan.
Yes, please.
I'm from Australia. a historical question. If the British had known that Jinnah was on his virtual last legs when partition came, do you think partition would have happened?
It might have happened sooner.
Yes, but I was asking the panelists,
Yes,
not
please.
you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I think one tends to focus far too much on elite politics. If these great men had kind of acted otherwise, would the historical outcome have been different? But the way I see it is that the passions unleashed between 40 and 47 as a result of this idea of Pakistan being flung into the public sphere, mobilization and counter-mobilization happening. From the evidence that I have seen, in fact, I came across this really startling confession by one young woman who was talking to this American diplomat who said that if Mr. Jinnah were to kind of pull back from Pakistan, she wouldn't mind going and assassinating him. So there is, a lot of passion which is unleashed for the creation of this new nation state, and whether the Muslim League leadership would have been able to dismount this tiger, I'm not so sure.
Okay, yes please.
My name is Ravi. The question that you mentioned about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, his book on Pakistan reflects a lot on the sociology and the psychology of the Islamic frame of mind. There is also a mention vis-a-vis the Hindu state of mind in that. It's a very deeply researched and a very meaningful book. And Venkat, would you suggest that every expert or any diplomat, every foreign service officer should read that book incisively, study it? Similarly, should that book be also recommended to thinkers in Pakistan? See, it reflects the frame of mind which is still relevant. One. Number two,
no, number two, please.
Civil society,
far too many people.
Myanmar-like situation with the army.
Yeah, okay. About Ambedkar.
Ambedkar himself says, every Indian, every intelligent Indian should read some book on Pakistan, if not this, some other, if he wants to help his country steer a clear path. Ambedkar says that in the preface of his book. And yeah, it is a brilliant work. It's produced within 3 months of the Lahore Resolution. It's a nearly 400-page manuscript. And it took me 11 years to write my 500-page book. He did it in 3 months. I have great admiration for the man. And yeah, he kind of works out the various positions on Pakistan very, very well. And he's quite prescient about the whole thing. And I find it absolutely amazing.
Okay, please. Please identify yourself and short question, please.
I'm R.S. Soda from Jodhpur. I want to ask Ms. Rima and Mr. Jafferson both. The two-nation theory is died in 71 only, when Bangladesh is separated. Now there are four-nation theory. Sindhis, Baluchs and Pathans are already asking for their liberation. And now fourth nation is Punjab.
So what is your question?
My question is it four-nation theory is now, two-nation theory is died?
Okay, Rima, is two-nation theory dead?
Two-nation theory is very old. It's not dead, but yeah, it's ancient. Because, the common man today is least concerned with the two-nation theory in Pakistan, because there is very little, opinion or discussion about it. It's amongst, scholarly circles or educational circles and stuff, but definitely not amongst the common people. Neither is Kashmir discussed. India is seen as, a cultural hub, and everybody enjoys the, songs and films and all that. So for the common man, it's another complexion completely. There is you will not face any hostility over there. I'm unaware of, Sindh wanting another province and Punjab and all that. I know about Balochistan, but I think everybody else is all right.
Everybody else is all right. Would you like to add something to that?
There is a Sindhi nationalist movement that has not been defined. In fact, we should pay more attention to ethnic politics in Pakistan, because there is indeed, there are many tensions there, and the Baluch war, for instance, is a forgotten war.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, please. Just a minute. Just let the lady ask a question, and then I will come to you. Please.
Hi Christoph, hi Rima, but I'm going to ask Venkat the question. This idea I'm Sabah.
Okay, Sabah.
Sabah Naqvi. Venkat, the problem that I have with your idea of New Medina, and I haven't read your book, I've actually read the other two books, but I haven't read yours, is how can a South Asian country be a leader of the Islamic world? There is an Arab, there is a question of race, there is the Arab world. I mean, Pakistan has a nuclear bomb, but there is a difference, because recently there were stories in the media about two boys who went and joined ISIS. They came back because in the race hierarchy they were kept right at the bottom and they were made to do menial work. So I personally don't believe, I think these things are very, that Pakistan can, so I would like to respond on that.
Yeah, please do read my book. I have been at several places and people do come up to me and start angrily arguing with me and say, I haven't read your book, but I have a problem with it. So I very gently tell them, okay, please try and first read the book, and I give them my email, my mobile number and everything. But there is this heady vision that this is going to be the new leader of the Islamic world, and it's not the Arabs who are going to be able to lead it. It's the South Asian Muslim, or Islam from South Asia, which is going to lead to the regeneration of the Islamic world. And there is a fairly deeply held belief among some of the Muslim League elites. Mr. Jinnah himself, of course, gives this belief, some people would say, an opportunistic whiff. So there is this notion, there is this, I quote this in my book, in which there is a functionary of the Jamaat-e-Islami who comes up to Mr. Jinnah and asks, what is this idea of an Islamic state that you're kind of talking about? And Mr. Jinnah points out that, right now we are agitating for a plot of land. Once you have acquired it, you are free to build your mosque upon it. On the other hand, you look at some of these ulama who are aligned with the Muslim League, and one of the figures I foreground is this man by the name of Maulana Shabbir Ahmad Usmani. He's the man who was Pakistan's first and last Sheikhul Islam. He was the man who officially buried Jinnah, and the burial happened according to Sunni custom after the private services were done according to Shia rituals. And he is a man who kind of comes up with this rather stunning simile, metaphor. And he tells, in a public meeting that he's addressing during the 1945-46 elections, which become a referendum on Pakistan, he points out that all of us go to Hajj, to Makkah, Medina. And for doing that, we board ships which are skippered by English captains. That ship carrying the faithful goes to the port of Jeddah, but it doesn't quite enter the port. It stops a little short of the port because the English skipper is not quite competent to dock the ship in the port safely, because there are underwater shoals and rocks and so on and so forth. At that point in time, an Arab pilot, a mariner, comes from the shore in a little dhow, boards the ship, and then guides the ship to safety. And well, that is when the faithful disembark and step on the Holy Land. And Usmani says, Mr. Jinnah is that English captain, he can only take you thus far. Once we have reached Pakistan, it's the ulama who are going to map the future for you.
Okay, last question, young lady here. Last question, I'm sorry, we have run out of time.
Good afternoon, I'm Vishakha Shivkumar. My question is to you, ma'am. Like you said, that people do talk about, or there is a dialogue between the youth about things like maybe music or things related to the entertainment industry, but most of them are soft issues. And this is where I slightly disagree with you, and I would want to like why you said what you did. Because like nobody talks about, the youth it doesn't talk about 1947 or 71 or 99. So is this sort of a dialogue, is this dialogue enough to help sort the tensions or like Sir said, you know, the difference in perception about other like more serious and important issues?
Okay.
The youth is now very politicized after having gone through so many tragedies. Again, I'll go back to the Peshawar school attack, and then everything has changed since then. It is immensely politicized, and every time there is an injustice, whether it is against a minority, I mean a religious community, or whether it is against Shias or Ahmadis or you know what have you, whenever there is a street protest, you will notice that there will be people of your age group, or you know a little older perhaps, but definitely it's all the youth that comes out on the street and holds placards, and there is huge resistance and noise. Social media, if you study that, you will see that you know there is a huge shift. By the softer issues, I meant the common man, not the youth. I meant people who are not educated, you know.
Be satisfied with his answer. I think the young people should be talking to each other, so I think that's thank you very much, all of you. Panelists, Rima, thank you very much. Christoph, thank you. Venkat, thank you very much. I hope you had a very enjoyable session with us. Thank you. Pakistan paradox, of course, remains.
With this, we come to the end of this discussion. We would like to thank Christoph, Rima, Venkat and Shyam for this brilliant session and present them with scarves as tokens of our gratitude. The next session, the Kalam of Shah Abdul Latif, begins at 1:40. Collaborate with us in our attempt to save paper. Receive the next hour's program on your phones by giving a missed call to 9251-301-339. The number is also available at the information desk. Thank you so much.
The original social network. Kingfisher, the king of good times.
Bringing the best of jazz, the past, the present, and the future together over 2 days of fantastic music. Teamwork Arts and Capital Jazz present the Jazz Utsav. Now in its 31st edition, it is the definitive festival for jazz in Delhi. Lineup included the Woodstock Jazz Band, the future of jazz. Eric Julian and friends, bringing the glorious past of jazz alive with their tunes. And flavor of the current jazz season, Rudresh Mahantapa's Gamak. The young Joel Lyciridis and his trio, showing the future of jazz is in good hands. Karim Elabudi and Vasundara, Arthur Dudkiewicz Trio, featuring the piano legend from Poland. Jazz Utsav 2016 edition will be held on the 19th and the 20th of November, bringing jazz alive for the music-loving audiences.
Sure, thanks.
गुड़गांव से बेटी के दिल ने उड़ान भरी, गुवाहाटी में आवाज आई,
Baba, Ma, book your tickets to Goa. Enjoy the beach. Love you. तुम भी तो आ रही हो? Bags कौन उठाएगा? Love you too.
जब से कोटक ने फोन में घर बनाया, तब से अपनों की शरारतों ने उड़ान भरी, गुड़गांव से गुवाहाटी तक, फोन में कोटक, कोना कोना कोटक।
Charbagh Palace, Jaipur, one of the best heritage hotels in India, with the opulence of an era gone by. Hosts of the Z Jaipur Literature Festival's exclusive opening dinner. And a long-established hotel partner, providing a home away from home for some of the world's greatest writers and thinkers. Charbagh Palace, a jewel of Jaipur.
मीरा को राजस्थान कुछ ऐसा दिखा।
Glenlivet to me is passion, quality, and excellent flavour. It's a character and a spirit of originality that swims beautifully with being Scottish.
It's a journey that takes us places, a journey that keeps you on the move. This everyday journey, what does it bring us? Hopes and dreams for a better tomorrow, the power to form connections forever, because the journey is just as important as the destination.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 9th Z Jaipur Literature Festival's Charbagh. We are delighted to introduce our two speakers for the next session. The next session is the Kalam of Shah Abdul Latif, and our speakers will be Sufi Munawar Lagari in conversation with Rita Kotari. Before we begin, I would also like to remind you that flash photography is not permitted in this venue, neither is it needed. We would be grateful if you give up your seats for those who cannot stand. Please keep the aisles free. This is for your own safety and security. And do not leave your bags unattended, as the festival is unable to take responsibility for any loss. Please ensure your phones are placed in silent mode, and should you need to have an urgent call, please do so outside the venue. Thank you so much. We are beginning with the session.
It's not on. Okay, it's just working. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So welcome all of you to this session on Glimpse of Beloved. I have with me Sufi Munawar Lagari, who comes from Washington DC, United States. Before I welcome him in English, I would like to welcome him in Sindhi, because that is what brings us together on this particular stage here. Shukra gadya so supri jane jiyare yaar. Sufi Munawar Lagari has had a very interesting and also a very checkered kind of a history. He is a citizen of Pakistan who is now in exile. He has been living outside Sindh and Pakistan since 1994. Yes. And since then he has not been able to go back to his hometown. He is a Sindhi by faith, technically a Sindhi Muslim. I am a Sindhi by faith, technically a Sindhi Hindu. In my years of growing up as a Sindhi Hindu in India, as a post-partition Sindhi, we would refer to people like Sufi as Lekta. And I'm sure they refer to people like us as Kafir. Kafir. So we are very happy to be together here, Adyata and the Kafir, celebrating what binds us together across borders, across religions, across different time zones, and also overcoming, transcending the history of partition that took away Sindhi Hindus away from Sindh. And this particular figure that brings us together is one of the most fascinating figures South Asia ever produced, and this is Shah Abdul Latif. I have the responsibility, ladies and gentlemen, of introducing three characters today. Of introducing Sufi Munawar Lagari, his collaborator Hassan Mujtaba, who has not been able to come today, who translated these verses. Sufi Munawar has compiled and edited and done perhaps an initial translation of these for Hassan, who then took them to the level of English poetry. And while both of them do this, there is this towering figure in the history of Sindh, Shah Abdul Latif. Although some of you I know have heard of him, I see here there are friends from Barmer, Jaisalmer and other parts of India where Sindhi is spoken. Although Sindhi linguists, Sindhi Hindus seldom remember that Sindhi also lives on the borders of Kutch and Rajasthan, and I'm so happy that there are friends from those parts of the country as well who have kept this vanishing language alive. But except to those, and except to some of us, Shah Abdul Latif is a relatively unknown figure. So what I'm going to do is to pass the buck to Sufi Munawar Lagari and request him to introduce to us all three figures as succinctly as possible. Munawar, over to you.
First of all, I really thank you, Jaipur Literary Festival, that they gave me this opportunity to speak about the great poet, and not only poet, a legend, a historian in a history like a Rumi or Tagore or Shakespeare, or even I could say more than that. And I appreciate and I congratulate that this is a great opportunity to introduce a great poet, and which is the neighborhood of Pakistan, we say, but I would call him that the Sindhi, a universal poet. But before I'm going to talk to about Shah Abdul Latif Bhitai, what Rita said, that I am yet and she is the kafir. You know, I want to tell you that in Islam there is a much conversion to convert the Hindus to the Muslim and this thing. But you know what he poet said? What he said? Kafir thi, not to be a Muslim, be a kafir, be an infidel. Kafir thi to ubh hai. Be a kafir, be an infidel, then you will be grow, you will be rise. Kafir thi to ubh hai. Bab Sharia ja chhad, left the Sharia. Although in Islam you say Sharia is important, but he said Bab Sharia ja chhad. Bab Sharia ja chhad, man mushrikan si gad. त वेझो थिए विसाल के मन अपना जो है मुशरकों के साथ मिलाओ तो आप मोहब्बत और बिलव्ड हासिल कर सकोगे, न कि मुस्लिम। ये भिटाई कह रहा है, दिस इज द भिटाई इज टेलिंग। एंड टुडे इन अमेरिका द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट बुक आफ्टर बाइबल इज सोल्ड रूमी's book. Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai always kept with himself Rumi's book and Quran, and Shah Abdul Karim Buldi's his grandfather's book. Always keep these three books with himself. This book, which I actually conceptualized 35 years my work. My father kept me in a room and kept me and asked me memorize, like in the Muslims the people memorize the Quran, but we consider Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai is our prophet. You probably don't know that, but today, like I just read yesterday Ban Ki-moon's article on violent extremism. This is also interesting. The word sometimes they call violent extremism, sometimes they call religious extremism, sometimes they call the Muslim extremism, sometimes they give the different name. But I want to tell you the why is relevant with the Latif, with the Bhittai, because look at in the Middle East, Boko Haram, Daesh, ISIS are in your neighborhood. Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Lashkar-e-Sapa, but one biggest terrorist organization we always forget. Just before our session, they were talking about these all things, but they forget the biggest terrorist organization is the ISI, the mother of the terrorist organization, the father of the terrorist organization. We forget, we talk about that one. I myself is the victim of the ISI. And Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai said, because very important, the philosophy, the ideology in the world, which is we see, why is this all terrorist is happening all over the world? Okay, in Pakistan-India relationship, we can understand that, oh, India has the two-nation theory. This is the old theory, already died. We are talking about those things. But what is happening in the Middle East? Those are not Hindu. What is happening in the Israel and Palestine? Those were not Hindu. So Latif said, this is very interesting, what he said, like I mentioned you about first the kafir thi. Now he said, kalmo pada ta kafir thiya, kalmo pada ta kafir thiya, kalmo pade ta kair. I am not going to recite the la ilaha illallah. This is Latif said. I am not saying kalmo pada ta kafir thiya, kalmo pade ta kair, jabe ra rasul ji tade bharyan per. I am not going to take the path of the Muhammad because of these things. That was happening even during, you know what was his era? His era was Aurangzeb era. Aurangzeb, what did the Aurangzeb? You are in India, because lot of I saw the roads, even Aurangzeb road, you haven't changed yet the names, these things. And that time was the Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai's time. What the Aurangzeb did with the sermon, what the Aurangzeb did his father, what the Aurangzeb has done with his brother, and the same thing nowadays is happening in the Sindh, in Balochistan. And this is the philosophy, because if you want to build a positive relationship or build a good relationship or want to make a friendship or want to get rid of these all negative things, you need a philosophy, you need an ideology. And with in Hinduism or Islam or Jainism or Buddhism or any other Islamic philosophy, you cannot counter this Islamic extremism or terrorism. This is the Latif's philosophy, the Sindhi Sufism. What is the Sindhi Sufism? The Sindhi Sufism is this, like we call Jhulelal and people call Kalandar Shehbaz, we call Udero Lal, people call the Pir Tahir. Even in Sindh, the Hindus are buried. Hindus are follower of the Muslim, are disciple of the Muslim poets, and even the Muslim who died, they said that we want to bury our samadhi with the Hindus. This is happening only in the Sindh, nothing any other parts of the world. It's only in the Sindh. This is the message of the Sindh. This is the, people don't know. People are talking about Ahmadiyya, Pakistan, Cheshire-Maman, this and that. But the Sindh, there is a lot of struggle. Many protests happen over there. Lot of movements in the Balochistan. But it doesn't come in the media. Neither in US, neither in Pakistan. Neither your politician talk about the human rights situation in the Sindh. Go and check how many people are the forced conversion reason to migrate to the India. Why? Because this Hafiz Saeed, who is buying the land in the Thar, in the Rajasthan, not your Rajasthan, in the Sindh Rajasthan, and who's helping them? Pakistani government is helping them. Pakistani state is helping them. Pakistani agencies is helping them. Why I am talking this? Because of Latif. And why Latif is said? And after this, because like in Islam, they say don't eat the haram, eat halal. Whenever our people from the Pakistan or India, Muslim people come and see the halal or haram. But you know what the Latif said? Je hua panje was the khan haram hatal sing. Really, I would like to, in this kind of situation, I better to eat the haram, not to the halal, because of these people, their attitudes and these people's religions and this and I'm telling you, this is my prediction. India said investigation. Ask me, which investigation in Pakistan happened and successful? Just which investigation? Just 2 days ago, read what the Musharraf is released, and he said openly that he was involved. He said the Bhutti's case, his release. Bhutto's investigation does happen? Nothing. Zia's plans happen? Nothing. Kargil investigation happen? Nothing. I said, Mr. Modi, please, this is your foolish demand. This is totally foolish. They're asking the investigation. Never happen investigation. My prediction, you can go and writing. Never will be happening. So what do you need as a Sufi? As a Sufi, I have the only simple words. Je bhai yesterday we it said
Vaswani.
You want
Dada Vaswani.
Yeah, Dada Vaswani. The one another good thing. I went to the Dada Vaswani on 16. This book is inaugurated by Dada Vaswani, written by Sufi Lagari, whose father and mother is Muhammad Ali and Fatima, the Muslim names, and inaugurated by Dada Vaswani.
By a Sindhi Hindu in Pune.
By Sindhi Hindu in Pune. This is the religion need in India and not in Pakistan. Pakistan is a fake country.
Okay, now don't go on about Pakistan only. Okay,
you want that question?
No. Yeah. No, there'll be groups in India that will be thrilled to hear what you're saying and welcome you with open arms because you will. I'm not stopping him. I think we just need to go back to Shah Abdul Latif.
Okay, go to Shah Abdul Latif. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what Shah Abdul Latif said? Okay, let's talk about Shah Abdul Latif. Jeki Allah Allah kan murna manyatin. The people who sing Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, I don't like them. I don't accept them. That's what Shah Abdul Latif said. If you ask me more about the Shah Latif, you know what he said? Moh mein Musalman andar mein azar aaye. Moh mein Musalman. If you look at their face is very decorated with the big beards and decorated the Muslim. That's a bit I said. I am not saying. I am responsible with each word. Moh mein Musalman andar mein azar aaye. Inside they are devil. Even devil was good. Believe me. And I'm not saying, Latif said, because devil was good. Latif said, I didn't say. Ashik Azazil, the best beloved, he was the lover of the God. He said, I'm not going to bow to the dust of the human being. I made it by fire. Ashik Azazil, all others Ashik, all other the people who are lover is just desiring. But Azazil was the great lover, not more than anyone else. if you ask any other question, because I think if I continue, then the people will be...
No. I was just sort of wondering if, Munawar, if you could talk to the audience about Shahjo Risalo, give them a sense of structure of how Shah Abdul Latif, Shahjo Risalo, which was really an oral narrative, and there is a legend that he had, when his disciples wrote it down, he asked them to go put it in submerged it in water because he did not want any kind of a written documentation.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So, if you could talk about Shahjo Risalo and also talk about the role of narratives and the role of music, that would be really nice.
Yes. You know, Shahjo Risalo, Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai was, when 23 years old, he fell in love with one girl. And then he wants to marry that girl, but the girl's parents, they don't want him to be married with, because of the society in Sindh. So then he left.
So this is 18th century.
18th century. He left and he went to the mountains, jungles, forest, and Hinglaj with the Hindus, with Muslims, and then he started the poetry.
And he met these yogis along the way.
Yogis.
Yeah.
Je bhai jogi thya ta rali khani ma rull. If you want to be jogi, just sit down, and you see, like I mentioned you another poetry, we talk too much. Really, I don't like the Indian this TV program, the conversation, like a traffic. Talk too much. But Latif said, chup kar.
Chappa na chor.
Pura akhyun. ढक कन र पानी पी पेट में भर र अधूरो अन्न त हूजा मूरत मंझारा मन तंजो मुशाहिदो माए.
वो पढ़ी ॿुधाए न?
बिल्कुल, you can translate please.
हाँ, किथे है?
ये तो पहिरें में ये थो. Just let me here. He
ठीक है, ॿियो कुछ पढ़ी
मुशाहिद
English. So the one that he just recited for you in Sindhi, I'll read out the English one. Be silent, do not move your lips, close your eyes, cover your ears, drink water, do not fill the stomach, live on meager grain, so you could have a glimpse of the image inside you. You know, as a second generation Sindhi post-partition generation growing up in India, my siblings used to go to a Sindhi medium school which closed down later, and they would have to be cramming verses from Shah Abdul Latif. So they would say, oh, dado homework karwa, Bhutta Sahib, we have to learn these verses by heart. But I had no idea then that this was such an important figure, that he informed so many, the community's philosophy and its sense of religion, a very syncretic sense of religion, in such a profound manner. So for instance, my mother would recite things, she would say things like, Piriye parai mithai, kane kadai, chakhi jo chet kare.
Yes.
So, agar माशुका से मिठाई आई है, उसको मिठाई समझ के खा, वो कड़वी नहीं है अगर आप चेतावनी से खा रहे हो. इफ यू चखी जो चेत करे, अगर आप चख रहे हो उस प्यार से, तो वो आपको कड़वी कभी नहीं लगेगी. जो आपको प्रेमिका की ओर से आई है, वो मीठा ही लगेगा आपको. So one grew up with these things without knowing that Shah Abdul Latif was such an important figure, and that this is one of the most truly syncretic figures in the world, whose research on Shah Abdul Latif is done by a large number of Hindu scholars. His books are edited by a large number of Hindu scholars, translations that have been done by people. In parts of Kutch, for instance, villages along the Indo-Pak boundary, whether people are coming up with a Congress campaign against BJP or a BJP campaign against Congress, whether it's raining or it is famine or a child has not got admission into a school or the cow or the buffalo is not yielding enough milk, all these are communicated very often by reciting verses of Shah Abdul Latif. So this is the pervasiveness, this is the significance of this figure. And when we hear songs of Shah Abdul Latif by, Abida Parveen or by Nusrat Fateh Ali or Marwi on Coke Pakistan, we seldom make the connection that there is a very, very living, divine and also a more politically sophisticated tradition of Shah Abdul Latif between India and Pakistan, between the Sindhis here and the Sindhis there. And I think it is just something of a miracle that Sufi Munawar has spent so many years. He mentions in the introduction that his father was a bus conductor, and he would ask you to read these, lock you in and ask you to read these and learn these by heart.
Right. And nowadays, like by faith and belief, whenever any difficulty or problem, I open the books, I follow that poetry or poem on that day. But I also check, because we have to see the major problem in the world now, because it's very important today. That's the reason I want to talk to about it, because everybody is talking very important, this message from the Bhetai. The root cause of the problem in the world, because of the Bhetai don't hate anyone, only one thing, Mullagiri. Mullah was the main enemy of the whole society. Maulvis. And Latif Bhetai curse nobody. You will translate what I'm going to do. He don't curse anyone. He curse only one. Mullah Marai Ma.
Maulvi, may your mother die.
Uski mother die.
Translation. I'm not saying it, he's saying it, but he's not saying it. Shah Abdul Latif is saying it.
Shah Abdul Latif is saying, I'm not saying. Mullah.
I'm not saying either.
Yes. Mullah मरे और मुल्ला को भी नहीं मार रहा है, मुल्ला की माँ को मार रहा है, क्योंकि ये वो मरे तो ये प्रॉब्लम खत्म हो ना. तो ये रोज हमारे टैक्स पेयर मनी खर्च हो रही है. मोदी साहब जो बिना वीजा के जा रहा है, आ रहा है, और मेरे दोस्त को तो वीजा भी नहीं मिल रहा है, बाकी तो मुल्ला इधर उधर आ जा रहे हैं. तो मुल्ला मरई माँ और उसकी माँ भी मरे. और आगे सुनो, पित्तो फिसई पेट में, पित्तो लिवर फिसई पेट में, उसको कर्स ऐसी दे रहा है, you die with pain and suffering because of you create the whole pain and suffering in the society. मुल्ला मरई माँ पित्तो फिसई पेट में, सुञाणी अल्लाह to be denied धूड़ में. One side you are every day Allah Akbar, you are talking about Allah, Allah, Allah. You say I know that, but you can't understand, you can't be on the side. Let the people live their life. They are not allowing. Mullah macho, ye idea. Don't go to follow the mullahs. Believe me, if we follow the Bhetai, this whole problem of the subcontinent and the world will be the solved. I'm telling you, this is the philosophy, this is the ideology, and that is the reason I'm telling to the US Congress people. You know what? Obama invited me one time to the White House and asked me when Afghan Pakistan. I said, don't mistake, because you're giving them money, you're giving them, although you found the mullah over there, the Al-Qaeda guy, what was the name? Yes, Bin Laden. So I'm again telling to the Indian politician and Indian media especially, please, if you popularize this Latif's poetry, really you will feel relaxed, you will enjoy the life. I'm positive. You know why? He said, as a lover, on the love, you can see, one another very important. You saw the needle, very small needle. He compared with the needle with the kingdom. Pachai na panya, sartyu sui san. Pachai means Badshai, kingdom. Na panya, can't compare with what? Sui san, with a needle. Dhake ugaran ke, keen dhakyai pan. You see, by needle is cloth came. Keen dhakyai pan. Needle always without cloth, but it उन्हें जो उसके थ्रू जो है हम कपड़े पहनते हैं, जो नीडल है मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट, बादशाहों से वो बेहतर है. नीडल सुई वो नंगों को ढकती है,
और बादशाह क्या करते हैं वो तो आपको पता है। बादशाह इन पाणिया सरक्यों सुई साण ढके उघाड़ में खे कीन ढकियाई पाण बेहर जापे जान इबर जे ओसाफ मां। उसकी जो क्वालिटीज है, उसकी जो ब्यूटी है, you can't compare to with anything. That is the needle and the suई. And look at the beauty.
वो कहानी आप जरा थोड़ी बताओ, उमर मारवी की या ससुई पुन्नू की।
देखें
वो कहानियों का क्या अंदाज है?
देखिए एक और इंपॉर्टेंट, बिल्कुल रीटा ने सही बात की, लतीफ के अंदर 7 इंपॉर्टेंट हीरोइंस हैं। उसकी वो पूरी पोएट्री में जो एड्रेस करता है वो अदा नहीं कहता है, ब्रदर नहीं कहता है, सिस्टर कहता है, अदियों कहता है। वो मुखातिब है औरत को, क्योंकि अगर औरत आज क्यों बाको हरम वाले औरतों को किडनैप करके मारते हैं और ये उनके खिलाफ है। और लतीफ उस टाइम में मैंने बताया जब औरंगजेब के टाइम में उन्होंने ये बात की, कहता है कि उसमें जो मारवी थी, एक तो मारवी कैरेक्टर था उमर मारवी और सारे वो आपकी वो इंटरेस्टिंग बात है, वो हिंदू थे, मुस्लिम नहीं थे, वो जो स्टोरीज थी
बिल्कुल
वो। और उसमें वो कहता है कि वो मारवी को कैद करके उमर जो है, एक उमर मारवी का किस्सा है, दूसरा सोनी निहार का किस्सा है, सोरठ रायडियाज का किस्सा है, लीला चनेसर का किस्सा है, नूरी जाम तमाची का किस्सा है, और अपना ये ससुई पुन्नू का किस्सा है। तो ये उसके जो करेक्टर हैं, स्टोरीज हैं, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, सिंबलिक हैं। लेकिन उसमें जो बात है, द पॉइंट इज द पेन इज द, मतलब उसमें स्ट्रगल है, किसी में पैट्रियटिज्म है, किसी में ब्यूटी है। Even I check myself who was because there are some concept that was Latif educated. He wasn't any means Aligarh University or Harvard or any place. Some scholar wrote about that he was illiterate, but he was knows the Persian, Arabic, Balochi, Saraiki, Sindhi, Hindi, Urdu. There's all languages he knows it. He knows those languages.
और एक ताज्जुब की बात ये भी है, ससुई पुन्नू की कहानी ले लो एक, right? So it's such an interesting example of a very syncretic relationship between a Hindu and Muslim. That Sasui, for instance, is the daughter of a Hindu, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and she falls in love with Punnu, who's a Jat, right? And Punnu is abducted by his brothers. Sasui spends her entire life looking for Punnu along the hills of Baluchistan and so on and so forth. और वो Punnu ढूंढती है, but because Shah Abdul Latif's poetry operates at both levels of ishq hakiki and ishq mizazi, that by the time you come to the end of the kalam, Sasui has become Punnu herself.
Yes.
Right? वो Punnu ढूंढते ढूंढते वो खुद Punnu बन गई है. So you know, we tend to sort of romanticize sometimes these syncretic stories, and some of us might feel cynical and think that they inhabit the past. But in my own reading, I've come across this as really the only example that continues to be a part of a living tradition, and that also continues to be mobilized very often in a very political kind of, in competing ideas of Islam in Pakistan. So I think we should be tantalizing them enough for them to read glimpse of the beloved, but perhaps we should leave some questions for the audience now. We are running short of time.
I want to share the Sasui Punnu.
Just last bit and then we can.
The Sasui Punnu's in that thing, like Rita said that. So she in Islamic according to the tradition, somebody died, then went to the graveyard, and then the 2 angels come. Their name is Munkar and Nakir. So then I'm going to recite his Munkar and Nakir ke jada ditai. Those 2 angels came to her. Tada uthi unka Punnu jo puchai. She's asking doesn't anything. They want to inquire about his good and bad things, but she is asking about her beloved. Where's Punnu? Agya uthi unka Punnu jo puchai. Ada iyai ko jo saath sajan jo. Have you seen the Punal somewhere? Have you seen my beloved? That is such kind of the commitment and the love and affection that the Sasui is, and the five surs, whole on the Sasui Punu, neither any other story.
That's right, yeah. So we could go on forever, but I've just been given an indication that the time is running out. I know there was a gentleman there who's been raising his hand long ago. First you, and their purple pullover. So may I, 1 and 2. Yeah.
Can you just recite few lines of the famous poetry being sung by Nusrat or Abida, so that we can connect a bit better with the poet, because personally I'm here listening to this name for the first time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good question. I don't want to say that Nusrat Fateh Ali or Abda Parveen visited many times. Nusrat died, but Abda Parveen visited here. I haven't seen any CD or video or YouTube where even I respect a lot Abda
She does with Shah Abdul Latif, she does. She does. I can't remember, but she does with Shah Abdul Latif. Yeah.
But there is Kiya rijaya tokhe kiya parchaya das ko da. That's one actually Abda Parveen sang, but I don't know that Abda Parveen has ever any Sindhi Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai song over here in which is, but there are many in Sindh. She sing the song like Kiya rijaya tokhe kiya parchaya. I don't think Nusrat Fateh Ali any.
How do I appease you? How do I persuade you? But I think if you do Shah Abdul Latif, Abida Parveen on YouTube, you should be able to get it. Those are not performances she does here, is what Sufi is saying. At the back, the second person, and then I'll come to you. Yeah. Yes, please. Yes.
Yes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Kala Gusti.
अरे यार जल्दी कर.
Hello sir, I think the concept that the contemporary Islam and harmony and progression cannot exist together would be wrong, because early Islam gave us people like Ibn Arabi the core concept of Sufism. It originated in the early medieval world, which is now war-torn, and we know the plight of people living there. So do you really think that considering Aurangzeb or any other political figure doing massacre is only limited to his religious ideology, not the social and geopolitical issues? For example, in the Middle East, we all know that particular place is going through that particular phase because of the vested interest of several other countries, not just because of the Islamic ideologies of those groups and leaders. Thank you.
We'll take the next question as well, and then if you could reply briefly.
Together.
Yeah, together. Okay.
Hi. You just, I guess the discussion was that poetry passively seeps into politics and other areas. Is there a way where we could catalyze it so that it actively seeps into, we can spread it actively and probably radicalize our people's thoughts?
That's for me.
Yes.
Or for him. Okay, why don't you just respond and then I'll...
You question to Chabas?
You respond to the, I don't know, the previous
The
one.
first question I want to respond to you, that the Sufism in Sindh doesn't come from Islam. This is my own concept and ideology, or even from the Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai. I want to recite one very simple: Ja Islama age hui, sa sunayu bang. Even before the Islam, we hear that the call of the God or nature or whatever you said. Our Sufism came from the Jainism and Buddhism, and even Mohenjo-daro, the Indus Valley civilization, where there's you can see no mosque or temple or anything. So Ibn Arabi or Aurangzeb are these things, but my focus is on the Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai, and Sindhi Sufism is really before the Islam. I would say that one. And I didn't get your questions.
No, he was talking about how poetry, he says, seeps in passively, and whether we can make it active. So a lot of intellectuals in Sindh have done that, right? They have used Shah Abdul Latif almost as a kind of an iconic form of resistance against the mainstream view of Islam. So it has been done. I think the word of caution would be to make sure that what you choose to mobilize does not more harm than good. And I think Shah Abdul Latif has an inherent ability to sort of broaden those horizons, to create these truly syncretic spaces. Not every poet comes with that kind of potential, so we would have to exercise some caution in doing that. With this, I'm bringing this session to a close, and I urge you to take a look at this very pocketable, convenient thematic book, Glimpse of Beloved, which Hassan and Sufi Munawar have put together very painstakingly. I thank Sufi Munawar on behalf of all of you and myself. Tanja Gana Wada Wada Shukr hai, Wale Khoro.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Take care.
With this, we come to an end of another brilliant session. I would like to thank Sufi Lagari and Rita Kothari, along with Dainik Bhaskar, who has sponsored this session. I would also like to thank Royal Treasure for the lovely furniture on stage. Our next session, Ballad of Bant Singh, begins in 10 minutes. I would request you to keep the aisles clean and take your baggages with you. Thank you so much.